Hey everyone, my name's Marissa,
And I'm Haley.
and today we're going to talk about our favorite myths.
Yes, not folk tales. Just to be specific.
No, those are
Myths.
different.
Yeah.
We're talking about our favorite mythological stories. Haley, do you want to go first?
All right, we're just jumping into it. All right, yeah, sure.
We're not pulling from like certain mythology. It's not like these are our favorite Greek myths or our favorite Japanese myths. These are just our favorite myths in general.
You know, I don't think anyone automatically thinks Japanese myths, which is kind of a shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. Anyways, all right. Speaking of Greek myths, because that's my first one, my first and only classical mythology. All right, I have a question for you, Marissa.
Okay.
Do you know that there is a myth surrounding your favorite roses, your favorite flower?
No.
Well, there is, and it all has to do with Aphrodite and Adonis.
Ooh.
Now, okay, with all myths, and probably you're gonna hear this a lot, at least from me. There are many different versions, many different details that are switched up. So this might be a hodgepodge of different versions of this. I don't know. But here we go. All right. It all starts with Adonis. There is a very long backstory involving incest on why he was even born. Yeah, just look it up yourself. I'm not gonna get into it because okay. I see that face first. Yeah, it
I
involves.
think the Greeks, incest is kind of a part of the course.
Yeah, well, he's an incest baby, but for this, it doesn't really matter. So he's a baby, and Aphrodite saves baby Adonis. What she saved him from? Honestly, I don't really know. There's again many different myths, but she saves him, and she gives him to Persephone for safekeeping. But Aphrodite fell in love with the baby from literally first sight. She looked at it and is like, "Yeah, he's gonna be hot one day."
What Twilight bullshit is this?
Yeah, literally. But yeah, she gives him to Persephone for safekeeping. Insert of some years, Adonis is now a very handsome young man, and Aphrodite comes back to Persephone to get him back. But Persephone also fell in love with him during this time, and she's like, "Nah, he's mine now." And so they take the argument to, Zeus, as all arguments end up going to. And Zeus, there's the whole thing where, like, I think Calliope the Muse was a part of this. I don't know. Basically, Zeus decreed that Adonis is going to spend 4 months with Persephone, 4 months with Aphrodite, and 4 months wherever he chooses to go. There's another version that just split it in half, where it's half Persephone, half Aphrodite, but I like the 4 months better. But the 4 months that he has to himself, he always chooses to go with Aphrodite, his one true love. And obviously Persephone ain't happy about that. And so for all the 4 months that he's with Persephone, Aphrodite is super duper sad, and thus we have winter. So it's almost like a Hades Persephone, but Aphrodite and Adonis kind of thing. Yeah. Now every time they're together, they're super happy. Spring is here, woo! And Adonis, like every male before like the Industrial Revolution, liked to hunt. That's his thing. But Aphrodite is like, "Hey, you gotta be careful. I'd hate it if anything happened to you." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, I'm fine." He was not fine. And basically, it ends with him being killed by a boar. Now, it's debatable if the wild boar was just a wild boar and just so happened to happen, or if it was Ares, who was known to be able to transform into a boar, and he's the one who killed him. Or maybe it was Artemis who sent the wild boar to kill him to avenge, I'm gonna mess up his name, Hippolytus? Yeah, his death. I don't know why she would kill him I don't know. That's just one thing. Or maybe he was sent by Persephone after he refuses to go back 1 year, whatever. But here's where the roses come in. Aphrodite, obviously distraught, she is running to him. "No, Adonis!" And she pricks her foot on a white rose, and it stained with her blood, and thus the first red rose was born, and that is why it is known as, like, it symbolizes passion. But another flower comes from this myth. The how do I pronounce it? Anemone. It's one version says that she sprinkled Adonis's blood with this sweet smelling nectar, and a dark red flower, the color of his blood, springs up, and that's an anemone. And that's why that also represents, like, passion, and it symbolizes the cruel fate of these two star-crossed lovers and stuff. But yeah, what I like about this myth, I like red roses. That is also one of my favorite flowers. And I don't know, I like this being the origin. It's tragic, but also very, well, no, it's just tragic, really, and pretty metal. Like, I like red roses come from blood.
Blood.
What do you think, Mert?
I like it a lot. What's funny is I too have a myth involving Aphrodite. And it's a love story, actually. But it's not her love story.
No.
It's actually that of her son, Eros, and a beautiful, lonely princess named Psyche. Do you want to hear it?
Tell me more, Marissa.
Okay, so, as everyone knows, Aphrodite is the goddess of love, and she's beautiful, and everyone worships her. But it's also known that she gets kind of pissed off when someone more beautiful shows up, especially when people start to worship them over her. And that's exactly what happened with Psyche. This princess is so beautiful, people started to pray to her. Now, Aphrodite, obviously pissed off about this, sends her son, who can make people fall in love with anything, to make her fall in love with an ugly monster. Unfortunately, Eros takes one look at this beautiful princess and goes, oh yeah, I want her.
As they do.
Apologies, my cough is out of control today. But so basically, what ends up happening is Psyche, who's so lonely because apparently no one wants to approach this beautiful princess. I don't know, I guess she's that kind of level hot where no one wants to, like, they're too scared of her in a way. She goes to an oracle, and the oracle says, you're gonna fall in love with a monster. And so she gets whisked away by the winds to this cave, this lavish cave. I believe it's a cave. There's a few mix-ups on what exactly it is, but let's just call it a cave for now. And her husband-to-be is invisible, but she's told that he's a hideous, hideous monster. And he's like, you'll live a wonderful lifestyle. You'll be like waited upon by invisible servants, and everything will be great. You just can't see me, even when we're doing the do. Like, you can't see me, and I'll be in a separate bedroom. And she's like, cool, that's fine. Until her sisters come a-calling. And her sisters are quite petty and jealous because because Psyche is living it up in this beautiful place, and they're not. So they're just like, okay, one of two things was going to happen. Like, you need to figure out who your husband is. Because if he is like a hideous, hideous monster, he might try to kill you. So you might need to kill him first.
I mean, kind of fair.
Kind of fair. So Psyche's like, okay, fine. So she sneaks into the husband's bedroom, and instead of a hideous, hideous monster, she sees Eros, who is hot. And she's like, oh, fuck. But she accidentally stabs herself on one of his arrows. So she's doubly in love with him. But she also knocks into a candle, and some of the oil falls onto him. He wakes up with like a slight burn. But he's betrayed because, he's the one thing, he's asked her to do, she's done. So he flies off without a word. Distraught, Psyche goes to Aphrodite's temple and is like, hey, can you talk to your son for me? Like, I'm really sorry. And Aphrodite, still pissed off, goes, no, I'm going to make you go through 4 tasks. And if at the end of these tasks, if you complete them all, then you can be my son again. And she's like, okay, cool. So the first task, she pulls out like a bag, and it empties out, and it's all this grain. And she goes, you have a day to sort all this grain by type. And Psyche is like, I don't know how to do this. But because she's basically a Disney princess, a nest of ants take pity on her and sort them for her. Aphrodite is obviously pissed off because she was able to do this. So the next task is that she has to get some fleas from this golden sheep who live across the river. And while Psyche is trying to swim all the way over there, I guess she's not a great swimmer because she's not really succeeding. A spirit comes and goes, "Hey, if you go over there, those sheep are gonna try to kill you. Just get the fleece off this bramble that has been collecting it." And Psyche goes, "Cool," and she does that. Aphrodite's still mad. The next task is she has this goblet and she has to fill it up with water from the river Styx. However, it's guarded by dragons. But Zeus himself is like, "I'm so over this." So he sends an eagle, and the eagle goes and gets the task done for her. He beats up the dragons and gets the thing and just goes, "Here, fucking take it." And lastly, she has to go to the underworld and go get a little bit of Persephone's beauty and put it in this box that Aphrodite gave her. And so she goes down to Persephone. Persephone goes, "Cool," puts something in the box and hands it back to her and goes, "There you go. Have a nice day." But at this point, Psyche goes, "If it contains beauty, and I'm about to go see my boyfriend, maybe I should become more beautiful for him." So she opens up the box, but instead of beauty, it was death. And she dies. Now, Eros, this entire time, has long since forgiven Psyche for the betrayal and just wants to see her again. But he's been held captive by his mother, Aphrodite, in Aphrodite's palace or whatever. But eventually he sneaks out once he sees that Psyche's dead. Sneaks out and revives her. It doesn't really say how, he just does. Depends on the story, I guess, but he just does. And then he takes her back to Olympus, and everyone's happy except for Aphrodite. And she's been made into a goddess, and they're married as equals, and they have a little baby.
Oh,
it's so cute.
So wait, did Persephone try to assassinate Aphrodite?
Because, I guess so.
Because did Psyche tell her that this is going to Aphrodite, and she's like, "All right, now's my chance. I'm still pissed about Adonis."
Maybe we've unlocked a conspiracy. Historians, get on it. Tell us down in the comments what's going on.
Yeah, when does this take place on the timeline?
Yeah, help us out.
I didn't even realize how much beef those two have. I didn't even know they really talk to each other.
I know. I don't really imagine them talking to each other. I feel like Persephone's too busy down in the underworld, and Aphrodite's too busy getting it on.
Well, let's see. The next one. We're gonna go on to a completely different trail. It's going way, way far away from literally the rest of my list. Well, okay. I take that back. But anyways, this one's a little cheating because I couldn't really pick one myth. So, in Native American myths, mythology, there's there's a bunch of recurring characters. One of them is the trickster coyote. And I just put anything with him because if you take Wile E. Coyote and Loki and they had a baby, that's basically Coyote. But also make him a little bit of an idiot.
Oh no.
This dude gets dunked on constantly, but he's also hilarious. Okay, I had two examples. Okay. So first one. Coyote really wanted to fly, as people do. Well, he's not really a people, because he's a coyote, but as non-flying creatures do. And he sees this flock of geese. And so he goes to a goose, and he's like, "Hey, I want to fly." And the goose is like, "Alright, sure, but you have to make sure, if you're gonna fly with us, you have to stay in formation, no fancy tricks or anything." And he's like, "Yep, promise, And so he gives him a specialty feather, basically Dumbo's this, and now he's able to fly. And so he's flying with the geese, and obviously he does not stay in formation because, that's just him, and we wouldn't really have a story if he did. And so he's like flying around. He's like doing tricks. The goose is like, "Hey, stop that!" Slaps his wrist. "Stop that! Getting back information." "Yeah, yeah, sure, sure, yeah, sure." And then
Sure.
once again, just goes off and does whatever. And so eventually, the flock of geese are like, "All right, we had enough of this dude. Let's get rid of him." So while he's like flying around, one of the geese like basically goes underneath him, swoops in, grabs a feather, "Get out!" And Coyote just plummets to the ground, Wile E. Coyote style. Yep.
No.
And he lands in a prickly pear patch. And so he's obviously injured. He's hit his head. He's just lying there. And Wolf came over and he's like, "Dude, you good?" The guy was like, "Everything hurts, but yeah, sure, I'm fine." Then he notices like some mush on the ground. He's like, "Ooh, that's just there? Wow, cool." And for some reason, he decides to eat it. And he's like, "Oh, that's good. That tastes good." And Wolf is like, "Dude, are you what the fuck, dude? You're eating your own brain." And that's the story. That, his stories are a lot of it's a lot of crude humor and poop jokes. I'm not even gonna tell you about one where he has like a challenge with a bunch of animals, like a basically a shitting challenge, as in who can take a shit the farthest.
The
Yeah, I'm not gonna go into that story. You can look that up yourself.
I'm good.
The other one that
Good.
I think is hilarious. I'm not gonna tell you this whole story, but there's a story about him just walking around, going on a journey. He's meeting different hosts, and essentially he tries to imitate them. Like every time he meets someone, they do a thing, and he's like, "Ah, come to my place." So whenever he gets time, and then when he does, he tries to do the thing that they can do, but he fails miserably. One of my favorite stories of him doing it is he goes to see Kingfisher, and Kingfisher's like, "Oh, let me get some food for you." So there's like an ice pond with like a hole in the center, and he just dives in, grabs a fish, comes back out. And Coyote's like, "Hey, you know what? You should come see me later." And so later, Kingfisher does, and Coyote. Okay, I've seen it. I read one where he like climbs up like a really tall rock. Another one where he climbs like a tree or something. But he climbs up something. He goes, he dives, and he just face plants into the ice and dies immediately. The Kingfisher just then goes, grabs a fish, brings Coyote back to life, hands it to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I have a magic power for this thing," and then he just leaves, basically being like, "Don't even bother." Yeah, yeah, those are all his. Yeah, that's how all of Coyote's stories are, and that's why I just said anything with them because it's funny. He's a real life Looney Tunes character. Well, I guess not real life, but you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
A mythological Looney Tunes character.
Oh my god. My next one is Norse, obviously. It's Thor, where he got dressed up as a bride.
I love this one.
I know you know it. It's so good. I came across it one day and I was just like, this. I came across this as a comic actually, where Thor was dressed up as a bride. He's like, did anyone notice? And Loki was there, transformed as a woman. He's like, you'll be fine. So the thing is this. I believe the name is a giant named Thrum, and he has stolen Thor's hammer. And he says that he's like, I'll give it back if Freya, the Odin's wife, becomes my wife. And everyone's like, no, fuck you. But Loki's like, no, I got this. Because Thrum has the shittiest eyesight. Like the worst. He's almost blind. This giant. So instead of Freya, they offer Thor. So they dress Thor up in it. Thor's so mad about it. So mad about it. But he does it anyway. So he's in a bridal dress. He's got everything on. He's got the bouquet, everything. And he goes through the whole ceremony until they're sitting down as man and wife. And Thrum's like, are you ready to do the do? And Thor's like, I want the hammer first. And he's like, oh yeah, sure. So he hands him the hammer, and they're in Jotunheim at this point. And Thor's like, awesome. So he takes the hammer and just goes on a killing spree. Just kills a bunch of giants. As you do.
Wasn't there a whole like moment where it's almost like a Red Riding Hood, like, oh, what big ears you have? But wasn't it like he's talking about like his strength and his like
I don't
his
know. That
beard,
wasn't
and they
one
come up
I
with
read.
bullshit explanations for it?
I didn't read that one, but maybe it's just the version I read. That's the one thing I don't like about Myths. Depending on the version you get your hands on, it depends on you know what you get. But I wouldn't
Yeah.
be surprised if just like, why are your arms so beefy? To hold my love for you.
Yep. I love that.
Yes, thank you.
Why is your face so hairy? That's not. That's just my luscious locks.
Oh my god. Why is your voice so deep? You uh don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. What are you trying to say, huh?
What are you trying to say? But yeah, I know it's one of the more shorter ones, but I just love that Loki's there the entire time, just laughing his ass off.
Honestly, speaking of Thor and Loki, my next one is also Norse mythology because Norse mythology is like one of my favorites because it's so weird and it's so funny. And if you can pick out the whole like all the additions that obviously the Christians, white people, that well I guess North, yeah, okay, I don't know, okay, Norse is also white people, but you know what I mean, when
Take all
other
the
cultures took hold of it and added their own Christianity spin to it. If you take that stuff out, then it's all fun and games. And honestly, if I was a wee child in ancient Scandinavian times, I would love these stories. Anyways, so basically, to summarize this story in one sentence, Thor and friends challenge some giants for no fucking reason other than just for fun, and then they get completely dunked on the whole time. So, okay. So, yeah. One day, Thor, for no reason whatsoever, as far as I can tell, in any version I looked up, he's just like, you know what, I want to go to Jotunheim. I want to challenge some giants, just cuz, whatever. And he brings his servant, let's see if I can pronounce this name, Thialfi? I'm just gonna call him his servant from now on, but that was my attempt at saying it correctly. He brings a servant, and he sneaks out because he knows that if any of Odin caught him, and he'd have to tell him why he's going, and then he'd be like, "Nope, don't do it." But he does get caught by Loki. But Loki, instead of turning him, is just like, that sounds like fun. I'll just join you. Sure, fuck it. And so they go on their journey to Utgard. There's this whole section about like them meeting like a giant named Skrimir. But I'm not gonna get into that. Just know they meet this guy. So they get to Utgard and they meet the king of the Jotuns, and he asks what talent do they possess, because only the most clever and talented people are allowed to eat with them. Clearly hearing this challenge, Thor's like, well, Loki can eat faster than anyone in the Nine Realms. And so Loki and a giant compete to see who can eat to the middle of this gigantic fucking plate first. They reach the middle at the exact same time. But while Loki, he's just like, ate every strip of meat from all the bones. All he has is like a pile of bones on his plate. He looks at the giant, and the giant not only ate all the food, but he ate the bones and the portion of the plate as well. So obviously he lost. So Thor's like, well, my servant, he can run faster than anyone in the Nine Realms. So he was racing another giant to run around the fortress's walls twice. And while the servant could run super stupid fast, the giant ran around it twice before he got halfway through the first lap. So that's super humiliating, and they're totally laughing at them at this point.
I mean,
Thor,
a kid running over against a giant. I mean, just saying, it's kind of a dumb challenge.
hey, look, okay, but they're Asgardians, okay? And
I know.
they're just dumb
Thinking
giants,
about like
right?
these little legs versus like this like giant legs.
It says that he ran so fast, his like legs are basically a blur. I can see like Sonic the Hedgehog like Infinity
Yeah,
Loop
that's
legs
true.
on
That's
him.
true. It's just like when you try to visualize it, it's kind of funny.
Okay, so yeah, Thor is like, well, you know what? I can drink more than anyone in the Nine Realms. So he's challenged to drink to the bottom of this like really big drinking horn, but like no matter how much he drank, he couldn't get to the bottom. Like I think by like his third gigantic gulp, he only got like a few inches down. So obviously he lost. Thor's fucking pissed. He's like, well, give me another challenge. Fuck you. So the king's like, okay, bring my cat. If you can lift my cat. There you go. Can you do that? Thor could barely lift the paws off the ground. Like, just barely. Getting even more pissed. Thor's getting more pissed. The Jotuns are laughing their asses off. And the king just like, you know what? I bet you can't even beat my old ancient grandma in a wrestling match. And obviously, he could not. The grandma pinned him down. They totally dunked on them. And then the king revealed that, you know what? I actually knew you were coming to challenge us, so I just had to fuck with you and use my magic to trick you guys. Also, it turns out that he was that one giant they ran into. But yeah, so Loki was actually facing against a spirit of fire, because nothing can consume as much or as fast as fire, so he obviously had to lose there. The serpent was actually running against a projection of his thoughts, because nothing can travel as fast as an idea. The drinking horn had its end dipped in the sea, and Thor ended up drinking so much of the oceans of the world that it receded by several inches. The cat was, how do I pronounce this? Jormungandr? The serpent that runs around Midgard? Yep.
Yeah. At least I think that's what it's pronounced. I'm sorry.
And so they're actually honestly a little impressed that he was able to lift him up even that much. And then the old woman was old age itself, and no one can beat time, basically. No one can beat old age. Thor, obviously really pissed, because I would be at that. He tries to kill the king, but he disappears. Then he tries to, like, completely smash the fortress, but the fortress disappeared. And now the three of them are left there, standing there, embarrassed, and they just had to go home. And that's the story.
I didn't tell you, but I heard this story before. And, I love the beginning when, like, he meets the king in disguise, because he's like, the guy kept falling asleep and, like, slowing them down. So to wake him, he hit him with his hammer, and he had to use magic, because otherwise he would have died.
And and so the whole reason he did that is because with every strike of his hammer using magic, he was able to basically absorb the magic, and that's the magic he used to trick them. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was so, but I love he's like, yeah, I would literally would have died if he wasn't using magic. Good to know. Alrighty, my next one. Let's make it not a Norse one. Let's.
You have another Norse one in your list?
I do. I have.
We'll save it.
We'll save it.
Oh, okay. I see which one. Yep.
Yeah. Let's do the one I'm like most nervous to recount, because I've heard so many variations of it. So it's a little hazy. It's Susanoo destroying Amaterisu's palace. This is a Japanese myth. Now, so Amaterasu is the goddess of the sun. Susanoo is like god of like earthquakes, I believe. He's got it. God, it's gonna bug. I just had it in my head. Now it's gone, because of course it's fucking gone. But
someone else can look it up.
Yeah, it's more important that you know that Amaterasu is the goddess of the sun. That's the most important thing. Now, Susanoo is kind of the more destructive god. He has temper tantrums. So one day he kind of gets not so banished from the heavens, but like he's told to like kind of go take a time out, like to go take a chill pill. And he doesn't think he's ever going to come back. So he wants to see his sister one last time before he goes. But Amaterasu, seeing that he's coming, thinks that he's coming for war. Like he's coming to kill her. So she meets him like in front of her palace, and she's decked out, ready to fight, like ready to go. And he's like, whoa, no, I'm not here to fight. I'm just here to say goodbye. And so, like, to calm the situation, they decide to play a game to see how many each person can create gods. Now, for this, Susanoo gives Amaterasu his sword, and she gives him her beads, like a beaded necklace. Now, from the beaded necklace, he creates 5 sons, and from his sword, Empress creates 3 daughters. Now,
Oh
Susanna.
wait, when you said 5 suns, it's SON sons.
Yes, sons.
Oh, I thought you meant suns in the sky. I'm like, holy shit.
No. 5 sons is like five boys. Now Susanna's like, haha, I won. I created more gods than you, haha. And Empress goes, oh no, because you made it from my beads. They're my sons, and the girls are your daughters. So each one believes they won, and ends up in a fight. Susanna goes on a rampage and ends up killing one of Empress's sacred weavers who make her clothes. And she's so distraught by this, among other things. He destroyed, like, her rice fields, most of her palace. Like, he destroyed a lot of things. So she goes and hides herself in a cave, refuses to come out. This is obviously a problem, because she's the sun. It plagues the world in darkness, everything starts going to hell, like, demons start coming out, crops won't grow, everything's gone bad. Now everyone tries everything to get her to come out, and it won't work. Now this is where things get hazy, because some versions say that they had basically what it comes down to is they had a big party, and in some versions another goddess comes down and kind of does a striptease, and that's what kind of brings her out. Basically, they have a big party and to have all this fun, and they hang a mirror up on a tree that's right outside her cave. And so when Empress comes out of the cave to see what's going on, she sees herself and sees how wonderful she is, and comes outside and kind of see the party, kind of see herself, and they reclose, and they seal the cave so she can't go back. And everyone convinces Empress to stay, and she's like, okay, I'll stay. And she's kind of back better than she ever was before. And Susano is obviously, I don't know if he's officially kicked out of heaven at that point, or if he's just kind of like banished for a time being, but he has to go down to earth for some time. But Amaterasu comes back better than before.
So they saved the day with self-love?
Yes, and a giant party, and in one version, a striptease.
Well, I mean, yeah. I'm interested. The striptease one is interesting.
Yeah, the striptease one is basically, like, I think it's like their version of the love goddess. She comes down, she's like a party goddess, and she starts doing a striptease, and Amaterasu comes out, and even she's like admiring the beauty, and she comes out, and that's when they seal like the cave, and it's through the power of this party, and then some self-love that they save the day.
Moral of the story: don't go destroying other people's shit, especially if they're the sun, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Susano's also like the god of like rivers, because in one story he dried up the rivers.
Damn.
Yeah, Susano's kind of a dick.
I need to hear more about Japanese mythology. I don't actually really know much about it, except for like a few things about dragons, because I was a dragon kid.
Yeah. I think it's Japanese. There's one, it's either Japanese or Chinese. I remember there's a story about this kid that comes out of a peach.
That sounds super familiar.
I know, right? Like, my grandma, so for backstory, my grandma didn't just hand me a Japanese, like, myth book for no reason. I'm a quarter Japanese. My grandmother's also full Japanese, and she would give me some stuff from her culture. But I don't remember any of it because I lost the book, like, so long ago. And I wish I had it, because it was like my favorite thing of all time.
I'd want to read it.
You know, right? Maybe I'll try to find it. Maybe I'll go like book hunting one day and see if I can find it.
She's still alive, right? You could ask her.
No, she's dead.
Oh right, fuck, she is. I forgot about that.
Yeah, she died a while ago, guys. Don't feel bad for me. It's okay. Everything's good.
Rest in peace, what? Grandpa. Speaking of self-love, I have another Native American, indigenous, whatever you want to call it, story about the rainbow crow. So, this is about a brave little crow that sacrificed to save his friends.
Oh.
So, there once was a crow, the rainbow crow, obviously. And he had beautiful multicolored feathers and a wonderful singing voice, the most beautiful bird ever. So one day, the snow began to fall in the forest, And this is the first time these little forest creatures have ever seen snow before, and they were pretty scared of it. And some of the smaller creatures eventually got like buried under it. So like, someone needs to go to the Great Sky Spirit, and they need to ask him to stop the snow. So the Rainbow Crow volunteered to do it, and he flew day in and day out until finally he found the Great Sky Spirit. Now, the Great Sky Spirit offered him a flame perched on the tip of a small twig and told him that it would help stop the snow. So the crow's journey's all the way back, and it took like 3 days. The flame continued burning this whole time. It might have burned him, it might not, I don't remember. But it's burning the whole time. And by the time he got back to his little friends, his feathers turned black and the smoke made his voice scratchy. Yep. So, but the snow stopped. But the crow was super sad because he's not beautiful anymore. But the forest friends were like, no, it's fine. Thank you for your sacrifice. You're the best Rainbow Crow. And the Great Spirit was like, you know, you're really cool. And honestly, as a thank you, I'm going to put these little tiny rainbows in your feathers just to commemorate this moment and your sacrifice. And that's basically the story.
Oh, that's so cute.
Oh.
It's adorable.
I think there's a longer version of this that goes into more details and stuff that I like better. I couldn't find it. But, yep, that's the Rainbow Crow. So, that's why the crows look and sound as they do.
That's so cute. That's so sweet. That's such a nice story for such a sweet bird. Crows are sweet. I'll fight anyone who says otherwise.
Crows are intelligent.
Crows are very intelligent. Do not fuck with crows.
It's like, who's gonna... It's a race between octopi, and crows on who's gonna take over the world first.
Yeah, my money's on octopus.
They have to deal with getting out of the water first. If they can get that...
It takes time, they do it for fun!
Oh yeah, I mean, okay, true, you're right.
Yeah, my money's on the octopus.
Well, we really have to worry if octopi and crows start teaming up. And squirrels. Oh god. Squirrels are evil, everyone. Don't let them deceive you. They're evil.
And on that note, we're gonna move on. So next is another Norse one. It's about the building of the wall for Asgard. I think you've heard of this, Haley.
Yep, I know all about this one.
Do you happen? I couldn't find the guy's name. Do you know it?
Nope.
Okay, I couldn't find his name. I don't know why. But anyway, so Asgard wanted to build this wall for protection, and it was gonna take for fucking ever. Well, this random dude shows up and goes with his horse, and he's just like, "I can build it in basically a year."
Wasn't he a dwarf?
Yeah, he was a dwarf. Yeah, he was a dwarf, and he was like, "Yeah, I can build it in a year." And they're all like, bitch, no you can't. It's like, yeah, I can. And if I can, I want Freya as my wife. Because everyone wants Freya as their wife. And I've seen, and honestly, apparently so do I. Because apparently she's hot. And amazing, so, you know. But they're like, but Loki's like, no, guys, he has to build it in a year. No one can do that. Just let him try. Because then we'll have, like, half the wall done already? And it's built by a dwarf. Like, who gives a fuck? And so all the gods are like, fine. But if it doesn't work out, it's on you. And Loki's like, bet. So they agree to let him go. He's like, but you can only use your horse to help you. Well, he starts building, and it soon becomes apparent that, like, this guy is going to build this wall within a year. And they're all like, fuck, we're going to lose Freya. And they look at Loki like, do something. He's like, okay. So Loki turns himself into a beautiful mare and lures the horse away. And neither he nor the horse, especially the horse, aren't seen for a long time. Now, the dwarf, without his horse, starts to slow down. Now, fuck. It was just in my head and it left. Shit, how does this end? I don't know how it ends. Haley, does he complete the wall?
I think he does, and isn't it like he promised he could have his... He's like, oh, well, I said you could have my head, I didn't say you're gonna have my neck.
Yeah. But
I
it's
mean,
like
how is that?
it's turned out that he's actually a giant. He's actually a giant in disguise. This is such a mess.
All I remember is that he ends up giving birth to
Yeah,
an eight-legged horse
that's the
baby.
main reason I like this thing is that Loki comes back like 9 months later with this horse that's got like way too many legs. It's got like what, 6 legs?
I think it's eight. I know, I know the name of the horse. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like
Yeah,
Slipnir, Slipnir, something like that.
yeah. And he goes to Odin. He's like, you can have this horse, and it'll be the fastest horse you'll ever own if you never ask where it came from. And Odin's like, cool. So Odin gets this brand new horse.
Honestly, Loki's collection of children is very interesting and vast and very diverse.
Very diverse. I do feel bad for Loki because I know the whole Ragnarok situation. Yeah.
We have his kids. We got Slipnir. We have Hela. We have
Um.
Fenrir.
Yeah. Fenrir.
Was Jormungandr? Was that one of his kids too?
Yeah. Jormungandr is one of his kids. That's a snake.
Can't think of the rest, unless that's actually it.
That might be. I feel like there might. I don't know. I can't remember. I know those are like the important ones.
Someone correct us on how. Someone tell us how this story actually ends, because we kind of botched up the ending on that one. But
Yeah. Sorry. I don't know.
I got to the important bits.
So long, and then so I was like, I don't need to write this down. Apparently, I did. Oh well.
We're on to our last stories. Our last favorite. Well, not our least favorite myths. Our last of our favorite myths.
Yes.
For me, if you may have noticed, I really like tricksters. And I don't know if he comes from specifically West Africa or just Africa, or if it's like all of Africa has a version of him. But there is Anansi the spider god, and he's hilarious, and I love his tricks. And I narrowed it down to one story.
Ooh.
Ironically, it's the story of how he got stories. So, long ago, the world had no stories. It was all hoarded by, let's see if I can pronounce his name, Nyan Kupon? The god of skies. He's the sky god. He has all the stories. And one day, I don't really know why. There's been different reasons. It could be just because he was bored, or just because he wanted the power of having all the stories, or he wanted to actually give stories to people. I don't know. But one day he just goes up to him and he's like, "Hey, can I buy all of the stories? Just give me all the stories." And the sky god is like, "I mean, sure, but you must get me these 3 things." Well, I found another source that said 4 things, but 3 things. He wanted Onini the python, Osebo the leopard, and the 3rd thing, I've heard it was I've heard one version where it was a fairy, but another version where it's like a herd of hornets. I just use the hornets one. I like that one. And obviously this guy god's like, there's no way this tiny little spider is going to be able to get them. But Anansi's like, yeah, okay, don't worry about it. I got this. So first he goes to the python. What he did is he laid a long stick on the ground, or it could be a branch, I don't know. Some wooden thing laid on the ground. And he goes to the python, he's like, hey, I made a bet with someone. I said, you're definitely longer than that stick. They're saying you're not. Can you, settle this bet? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so he lays out along the stick, but, no matter what, a part of him always keeps curling up. So Anansi is like, hey, you know what? Perfect solution. How about I just tie you to the stick so no part of you curls up, and then we can, settle this once and for all. He's like, okay, sure, that's fine. So he ties him to the stick, and he's like, all right, let me go. And he's like, nope. And he brings him to the sky god.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So the next one, he goes after the leopard next. And he's, okay, I heard different versions. One version is he sewed one of his eyes shut, and he's like, Yeah, I just saw the sky god, and he did this to me, and now I can't see in this one eye, but it gave me knowledge of the universe. You should totally try it. And he's like, okay, sure. So he sewed one eye shut, and he's like, you know what? Actually, if you sewed both of your eyes shut, you would know it like double the power. He's like, yeah, sure. So he sewed both of eyes shut, and he led the blind leopard to the sky god. Or another version, he snuck into his lair at night. He dug up a hole, covered it with like leaves. The leopard woke up, fell into the pit, and he's crying for help. And Anansi just so happened, very conveniently, to be in the area. And he's like, and the leopard's like, help me get up. And Anansi's like, okay, sure, because I'm a good citizen. And so he like uses his web, lowers like a string of his web down. And as the leopard is like climbing up, it's like super sticky and he gets tangled in it. So by the time he's all the way up, he's completely tangled. And he's like, hey, can you help a guy out? And Anansi's like, nope. And he takes him to the sky god.
I like that version better. The one where he gets like that one seems more trickstery. The other one's kind of like, "Hey, Panther, hope you're an idiot."
I mean, yeah, true. They're all idiots in this, honestly. And then you got the Hornet. And again, there's multiple versions. My favorite version is he pours water on himself. Then he pours water on the Hornet's nest. And when the Hornets all come out and they're fucking pissed, like, who the fuck did that? He's like, oh, whoa. It just rained, man. Clearly it just rained because I am also wet. So, how about this? I have this big jar. If you guys can go in there and then you'll be protected from when it rains again. They're like, yeah, this sounds like a good idea, very plausible. And they get in and he plugged it up and brought them to the sky god. The sky god is like, wow, I'm actually kind of impressed you did this. So he gave him the stories. He's now the Lord of Stories. Yay. There's like more. There's technically more. Like another part to the story where humans make fun of him and he gets pissed, and so he like hides all the stories and his son. Yeah, there's a whole other thing to it. You know what? If I remember, I'm gonna link the video on YouTube that goes through his stories because it's all hilarious and I love it. But yes, that's Anansi. Honestly, he might be my favorite mythological creature. Well,
He sounds cool.
God. Yep. All
All
right,
right,
Marissa, bring it home.
bring it home. My favorite is a very well-known one. It's Hades and Persephone because I'm a basic bitch.
Hey, there's a reason it shows up a lot. Okay.
Yeah, I also
There's a
like
reason.
Eurydice and Orpheus, but I decided not to put on too many. I gotta fill this whole list up with Greek myths, honestly.
I know, right? We could have an entire section just for classical mythology.
I know, it's too easy. So anyway, Hades and Persephone. Now, Hades is lord of the underworld. He's not the king of death. That's someone else. I think his name's Thanatos, or it's Thanos. That's Thanatos.
I think
Thanatos is
Thanatos.
Yeah. Persephone is Demeter's daughter. And Demeter is the goddess of grain and makes everything grow. Persephone's just kind of there to help. Okay, now we know the players. So Persephone is just chilling in a garden when the ground breaks open. Hades bursts out like on a chariot, grabs her, and takes her down to the underworld. Now,
As you do.
it's less of a kidnapping and more of an arranged marriage because Zeus, who's kind of, I believe it's Persephone's father, arranged for the whole thing to happen because Zeus told, so much incest in Greek, told Hades, his brother, like, hey, Demeter will not be cool with you marrying Persephone, so just grab her. It works for me. Did not go well. So Persephone is down in Hades. They're married. Hooray. Demeter, on the other hand, is freaking out because her daughter's missing. And Demeter loves her daughter. But, they never wanted her to wed. Ever. So she turns into an old woman and starts wandering around, being all sad. There's a few versions where, she just wanders around and everything dies for, a year, and nothing they can do will bring Demeter out of it. There's another version where she, becomes, a nursemaid to a kingdom's like young like baby prince and starts slowly turning him immortal. Until one day the mom finds out, and then Demeter reveals herself, and it'll only be calmed down if they build her a temple, which they do, and she lives there instead. And then she's just sad. And it becomes quite apparent that like nothing will make Demeter happy. So Zeus is like, ugh, fine. I will send someone to get Persephone back. But the downside is Hades is like, yeah, cool. About that, I kind of made her eat some pomegranate seeds, so she can't go back permanently. She has to stay down here. She ate half pomegranate, so she's got to stay here half the year. And they're like, ugh, fine. So Persephone goes back up to her mom. Things start happening. Like, the grain starts growing again. Everything's fine. And then, obviously, for the other half of the year, she's down with her husband. And everything's great. Because in some versions, she hates Hades. Some versions, she loves Hades. I've even read a version where she willingly just kind of walked down in the underground and was like, oh my god, this is amazing. And Hades is like, pretty girl, say what? and she just kind of falls for him, and they just end up getting married anyway. I've seen a few versions. It's kind of fun. But at the end of the day, it's to explain the seasons, where it's like half of like spring and summer is when Persephone is with her mother, and fall and winter is when she's with her husband down in the underworld. Honestly, there's so much to Persephone, because like she's one of like the more older goddesses. If you look into the lore, I love looking into her, because she predates like a lot of things. Her and her mother, and she gets mentioned a lot as like the dreadful Persephone, like dread Persephone. So I believe it's Orpheus. Who was it? One of the myths. They're being plagued by visions of something, and they're like, "Oh, Persephone must be doing this." So Persephone is actually like the more conniving one out of Hades and Persephone. Hades is kind of chill. He's just kind of there. You know, Persephone.
Which is funny, because when I first heard the myth, you know, you kind of get the perception that she's like almost damsel in distress, kind of like nice person. And if like that's the only myth you know of her, then it's it makes sense that that's the perception you have of her. But then literally any other myth involving Persephone, and she's like a petty bitch.
Yeah, you do not fuck with Persephone. Whew. I mean,
as you can tell from my Adonis and Aphrodite,
or my Eros and Psyche one, where she literally puts death in a box, just
yep,
to be used on anyone who opens it, whoever it might be.
That's why I don't base a god after one myth.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Is it? Haley, what is, out of the 5, what's your favorite?
I'm gonna say, okay, my answer will always change constantly. Wait, out of your 5 or my 5?
You know what, out of my 5.
Okay. Out of your 5, I would say, that's hard. This is hard. I think I might have to say Hades and Persephone. I already knew that myth before. I love the myth. I love all the retellings of this myth. I like how versatile it is, and you can shape it however you want, and it would make sense. And I like Persephone. Yep, that's my favorite. How about you, Marissa? What's your favorite of
Rainbow Crow so much.
The Rainbow
Crow? I've never
Crow?
heard it before, and it's so cute, and it's so sweet.
There's someone made a children's book on
I'm not
it.
surprised.
And you should, and it looks nice. I'm like, man, I would actually buy it.
Yeah.
But what about you guys? What is your favorite myth? Either of our 10 that we listed for you, or just, any myth that you like. Let us know in the comments below if you're on YouTube, or on the interactive thingamabob if you're on Spotify. I don't know what to call that. I don't know if there's an official thing. I don't know. Or you can tell us on Twitter @writing_addicts, or on Instagram @writing.addicts.
Also, make sure to follow us to get notified for the next episode, wherever you are, YouTube or Spotify, or, I don't know, somewhere else. And we'll see you next time. Bye!
Bye!